They say freak when you're singled out. Red filters through. So lay down, the thread is real. When his side goes red again. Seeing red again. Seeing red again. Things change if you won't contain. Slip away to clear your mind. When asked who made it show, the truth he gives into most. So lay down, the thread is real. When his side goes red
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, it's I'm No Joe. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, we have got a glorious panel here to break down the cacophony that will be this weekend's clusterfuck of combat sports. We actually have some going on right this moment. No need to tune in, though. It's not that exciting. I promise we'll be more entertaining than they will be. But for those of you who are unaware, PFL 4 is going down right now. Not a whole lot to look forward to, but waiting to see how bad Clarissa Shields gets smacked around is kind of intriguing me, so I do have that on the read loop. If you see me days off for just a second during the broadcast, I apologize in advance. I'm probably checking the updates to see where they are in that card. But before we get into all the shit talking and shenanigans and the breakdowns of all the cards we've got going on this weekend, take just a moment here to welcome these wonderful folks here to break down the cards and just get into the shit show with us. First and foremost, we have got our interim new guy strap contender himself, fresh with a new perspective on everything that is internet, the one and only young gunner himself. RJ, how you doing, kid?
Doing pretty good, man. I had a pretty good day today, and I'll say it so I'm not like shamed for not bringing it up. Down in the description is the I'm No Joe Discord, where you can find all the other news information that isn't brought up during the show. There's also a fan Q&A section in there to where you can drop questions and all that sort of stuff, to where you can ask us and we'll answer them live on stream.
See, who says you can't teach this kid nothing? Look at this. Look at this. Good job. Oh, but across the octagon from myself, as it were, more often than not, my Wednesday night homeboy, my combat shit talking compatriot, the one and only Golf T Vapes himself. How you doing, brother?
Fucking lovely. We got an exciting weekend of fights this weekend. To be quite honest, there's more than just the UFC that's exciting. At least some from the other promotion are exciting. I won't say all, but there are some exciting ones on that card for me. So I'm excited. Friday and Saturday are going to be fucking great days.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Glad we can get you both on board here. So before we jump into the news and recent events, as we like to do around here, I do want to do a quick little run back, as it were. We're not going to do a full recap, full breakdown, but there was some shit that went down last Saturday that if you guys did not watch, I mean, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. We warned you guys last week that this wasn't going to be the greatest card in the world, but there was going to be plenty of fights on that card for the UFC that were going to be very potentially entertaining and absolutely worth watching. Pretty much everyone that we told you guys to keep an eye on turned out to be fucking spectacular. I've had the time of my life. Moron got his ass handed to him to open the card. I couldn't have been fucking happier. We just worked through some serious fucking bouts last Saturday. Manon Fiorot, she is Holly Holm 2.0, man. She is a blonde kickboxer who comes in, kicks ass, and takes fucking names. Credit where credit is due. Ricci took the fight on like 4 days' notice, up a weight class from where she normally fights. So that does have to be kept in the back of your mind. But at the same time, that's not necessarily going to affect your chin. And that's what Fiorot beat the shit out of. So it's going to be real interesting to see where she goes moving forward. France is starting to get some serious MMA competitors now on both sides of the house.
That whole being legal in your country makes it a lot easier to train.
Man, I'm telling you, now that all the gyms and everything are open over there and they've got some legitimate big names starting to really, encourage the growth of MMA over in France, we're starting to see some of these prospects who, essentially were training in the underground for the last 10 years, starting to be able to come out into the light and show what they're capable of. And here comes France, baby.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie. From watching that fight alone with her, she's got a lot of fucking potential in that weight class. A fucking lot. I'm wondering what happens when she gets put on her back. But up until we see that, and I say until we see that because it might be a while before we see that because she's great at maintaining distance. She's got an exciting prospect written all over her right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's going to be real fun to see where she goes. I'm also subsequently curious to see what happens when Ricci gets to go back down and doesn't have to fight at 25 on short notice when she's got a regular camp and she's fighting at a regular weight. I'm curious to see how she's going to do because I get it. I get it. When you get the call from the UFC and they want you to make your debut now where they're telling you to, and it's not when you're ready for it, and it's not where you normally fight, but you want to make your fucking debut, you got to get your foot in the door. I understand it. This is one of those weird situations where I don't necessarily agree with the matchmaking. If you want to throw together a last minute fight to keep that on the card, find somebody in the right fucking weight class, man. They did Ricci bad by throwing her out like that. Props for taking it. Props for showing fucking heart and never giving up. But I'm curious to see how she does back in her natural weight as well. Yeah. Moving along from there, we got essentially the fucking eye poke heard round the goddamn world. Two-part thought on the eye poke no contest. One, I am glad to see that they did make it a no contest. They didn't call it a DQ. That was not intentional. It was pretty fucking gruesome, but it was not intentional. You can see he wasn't trying to do it. He wasn't being sloppy. It literally was just one of those freak accidents, and it sucked. The second part about that kind of grinds my gears a little bit is that Mason Jones basically said he has no interest in running a rematch back on that. Like we've seen, this is literally, I think, the third one in the last month where the fight ends on an eye poke that's ruled a no contest, which is nice, but the person who does the eye poking is convinced that somehow they still won the fight and they don't need to run that back. Like, you never finished a match. You fucked up and they had to call the fight because of it. I don't understand any reason why they shouldn't immediately, like sometime in July, maybe early August, reschedule that fucking fight. We didn't learn anything. Mason Jones didn't win that fucking fight. So it's a little weird because all three of them that we have seen like this, the guy who does the eye poking, Leon, I'm looking at you, motherfucker, comes right out afterwards and he's like, there's no reason we need to run that fight back. I won. No, bitch, you fouled the fuck out. And they gave you enough grace to call it a no contest instead of a DQ. Those fights, all three, in my opinion, need to be run back. But I digress. We'll get into more of that a little bit later, I'm sure of. That will bring us to what kind of turned into a unexpected theme of the evening, so to speak. Marquand Amirkhani, Mr. Finland himself, came out against another literal last-minute replacement in Kamwela Kirk. For all intents and purposes, this was teed up to be a chance for Marquand to come out and just style on this motherfucker, look like the stud that we know he's capable of doing, and dispatching a fucking last-minute soup can, almost to show the UFC why they should have, given him a bigger fight to begin with. And that's not at all what fucking happened. What actually happened was Marquand came out and had it in his head that this was a gimme fight and that he could coast through it instead of coming out and styling on a motherfucker like he should have. And surprise, surprise, motherfuckers, Kirk's kind of a badass. Last minute, completely unknown, he came in and did fucking work. He put Marquand on his fucking ass repeatedly with authority. If you didn't know better, if you had no pretense or no context of this fight and you were just tuning into it, flipping through the channels, you would think that Marquand was the fucking newbie making his debut and Kirk was the vet who was just there to show off. Absolute fucking hats off to Kamwela Kirk. That dude has got a real bright future at featherweight. Marquand, on the other hand, better get his shit together. We've seen him flounder a couple times, and this was supposed to be an opportunity for him to come out and just look like a fucking stud. And instead, he looked like a full-on goddamn soup can against a full-on goddamn soup can. So props to Kirk. I'm very curious to see how his next match is going to go, but Amirkhani better get his shit together. That Mr. Finland routine ain't going to keep you in the UFC forever, especially when you're dropping unanimous fucking decisions to a brand new guy in a fight that you should have been able to walk through. Son, you better quit fucking around. So that will bring us to one of the fights that we thought should have been on the main card and for some reason was still on the fucking prelims. Boser versus Latifi. Man, I had so much hope that Tanner Boser was going to come out and expose Yair Latifi for the ice cream cone shaped fuckhead that he really is. And I don't know if he had some of that Marquand Amirkhani fucking water beforehand and was just high on his own supply, or if he really just didn't take Latifi seriously enough. But Boser came in there and just kind of looked like he was on autopilot and didn't really give too much of a shit. The problem is that Latifi came in there trying to do work. He wasn't that impressive. He didn't do a whole lot of work, but he came in and you could tell that he wanted the victory. And in a situation where you're going to the judges with the big men, sometimes it's the guy who looks like he's trying to get it more than the guy who doesn't take as much damage who wins the fight. And that's kind of exactly what we saw here from Tanner not taking this fight seriously enough and not putting the fucking work in. We ended up with this ice cream cone shaped fuckhead talking out his ass again, now talking about how he deserves to be in the title conversation. Are you fucking kidding me? The dude doesn't have a number. He's calling for a fucking title shot because Tanner Boser couldn't take a fight seriously enough. At this point, Tanner better pull his head out of his fucking ass because the Arlovsky fight was understandable. We all knew he won that fight. The judges gave it to Arlovsky. This was a very different fight from that fight. He fucking gave this fight away, and Latifi was graciously ready to take it in that situation. So if Bozer doesn't stop fucking around, I don't see him being in the UFC more than one, possibly two more fights from now. Shit or get off the pot, son. You can't be fucking around, especially at heavyweight. In the climate right now, and no room for it. So that'll bring us to what originally was scheduled to be just another fight on the card. Ended up getting moved to the premier prelim fight because Tom Breeze was actually hospitalized just before his match started. And at the last minute, they scrapped that fight altogether. So they had to do some last minute shuffling. Montana De La Rosa versus Ariane Lipski. This fight was, it both made me very happy and very angry at the same fucking time. It made me very angry that we saw clear as fucking day Montana De La Rosa still hasn't worked on her boxing. Her stand-up is still absolute fucking trash. And that is going to be a very big problem very soon in her career. The thing that made me very happy was that she has very clearly still been working on her ground game and implementing at least a little bit more of the striking practice into the ground game, because we all know that if Montana gets you on the ground, it's going to be a problem. She's going to choke you. She's going to break your fucking arm. She's going to take your fucking ankle. She's a black belt badass. The problem that I think Ariane Lipski did not take into consideration is that now when Montana gets you to the ground and she can't get that submission, she's just going to hammer fist your fucking skull into the canvas until the ref pulls her off. And that's exactly what she did. It was not pretty. It was not smooth, but she absolutely beat the brakes off Ariane Lipski on the ground. So there is, I think, some progress there, considering that we never saw her do ground and pound before that. At the same time, girl, you better stand up, stay standing up, and work on your fucking boxing, because you're not going to be able to always just get it to the ground like that. And the next girl that comes in and doesn't let you go to the ground, you're gonna get fucking worked. So hopefully she, more than her husband did, will take the fucking hint and actually start working on her hands so that we can see her start to move up the ranks again a little more, because realistically, a win against Lipski is going to do something for her name. They're going to push her up those rankings again, and the girl's a little bit above her might not give her a chance to get it to the ground, knowing that she's weak on her feet. She might get some serious fucking competition headhunting for her. So hopefully she don't fuck around no more and gets her goddamn fucking gloves on and trains her fucking hands for a change, because she needs it. Bringing us into the main card. Look, there's no other way to say it. Buff Rock Obama came in and did work. This was another one of those fights where Todorovic was supposed to come in against the last minute replacement and just style on a motherfucker. Just show the UFC how good you are. Dispatch this newbie making their fucking debut who has no clue what they're up against and look like a fucking boss doing it. And Todorovic came out and just got handled by Swole Obama. Like, Gregory Rodriguez was doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, how he wanted to do it to Todorovic, and he couldn't really stop. Shit, Rodriguez has good hands. He's got good fucking grappling. He's got great fucking ground game. Like, Buff Barry's going to be a fucking problem in this division going forward here. Like, he's going to climb the ranks pretty fucking quick if this was any indication of what he is capable of. I'm telling you now. Todorovic, just like Marquand, pull your head out of your ass and get your shit together, because you ain't going to get a couple more of those fucking opportunities again. You shit the bed on a fucking softball toss. The UFC doesn't do that repeatedly.
I don't know if he has technical difficulties or animals.
Yeah, could be either or.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Buff Obama did do some work. I'll say that. There's some.
That he fucking did.
Maybe I missed it, but I want to go back just a smidgen to the prelims because I just want to say, like I fucking called last week when we were talking about it. Muslim Salikov, that dude's the real fucking deal. Like I really don't think he's getting as much respect as his fucking name deserves at this point. Because he made very good work of Francisco Trinaldo. And don't get me wrong, Trinaldo didn't go away, but he had nothing for him. It was a fantastic fucking thing to see. Like the dude, he can go places. And
Sorry about that. The dog just sneezed like 30 times in a row and looked like he was freaking out in the process of doing it. So I was just having to make sure that he was okay. Fucking weird mutt.
gotta take care of the kids, man. I get it.
But yeah, also, yeah, Muslim Salikov, man.
Dude, I said
That dude's going to be a problem real quick. They're not going to be able to keep avoiding him for much longer because he does what he did to Trinaldo to everybody.
Yeah, and Trinaldo didn't look bad. He looked like the normal Trinaldo.
No.
Keep going forward.
Yeah, no, he
didn't
was
slow
on.
down.
Yeah, he was on.
Man, I said that last week, though, man. I'm telling you, that dude's going to be fucking problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this. I don't think Ponzinibbio looked as good as the commentators were calling him out to be. It was a pretty fucking close back and forth, in my opinion, with him and Baeza. Baeza never went away either. You could tell Ponzinibbio was putting the pressure on a little bit more, maybe, but nothing extremely impressive. Nothing that showed me that 2 years on the shelf really gave him a chance to work on much. It looked very much like the Ponzinibbio we'd seen prior to his layoff. Good on him on getting the W. I don't think it really does a whole lot for his career other than the fact that he came off the bench and still got the W. But it took him to the judges, and Baeza by no means looked bad in that fight. So realistically, all in all, I kind of look at that fight as a wash.
You know what's crazy to me about that fight? More so Ponzinibbio. This is what's crazy. That dude has fantastic leg kicks. If you go back and watch some of his earlier fights in the UFC, he was KOing people with leg kicks. He didn't seem to throw out nearly the amount that you expect out of somebody who is so fucking deadly with them. Like we know the outcomes of what happens with leg kicks nowadays. I mean, let's just in recent memory that drastically fucking altered the way a fight could have went. The last Poirier fucking McGregor fight. Poirier went to leg kicking, and that drastically fucked that. I mean, I'm surprised Ponzinibbio didn't throw more leg kicks because I think if he would have, Baeza would not have fucking made it out of the fight. And I'm not saying that Ponzinibbio did a great fucking job. He did enough to win, but if he'd have thrown leg kicks, I think he could have got Baeza out of there.
Yeah, I agree. I think he probably could have finished it, but the fact that he didn't, I think, shows as much on Baeza as it does on Ponzinibbio coming off of a 2-year shelf life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a fucking weird thing. Like, get back to what you're good at, man. Go them fucking leg kicks.
Yeah.
They're deadly.
It was half showing that he still got it, half showing that he was absolutely feeling a little ring rust, I think. Like you could tell later on in the fight, he kind of got back into that groove. You could see him getting a little more comfortable, but it almost early on looked like he kind of forgot how to be in the octagon there for a minute. Like at least on a UFC level. That will bring us to Dolidze versus Staropoli, which turned into a fucking grapplers battle, kind of like we thought it was. A little surprised Staropoli kind of was as passive as he was for the majority of that fight. He kind of let Dolidze really dictate the pace, and I think that's kind of why it cost him the fucking W. Good on Dolidze. Staropoli better get his ass back to the gym because he had old Charlie Olives in his corner, the fucking champ, in his corner calling shit out to him, and he wasn't listening. And they talked about it after the fact that his coach was calling for things and he just wasn't doing them for whatever reason, and it clearly cost him the fight. Like, you had great advice being given to you live from the champion, and you ignored it.
I mean, like, take the champion out of the situation. You're getting call outs from your corner.
Right?
It doesn't matter if who's in your corner. That's your corner. Those are your people. They're telling you shit for a fucking
That's what
reason.
they're there for.
They're telling you shit for a reason. Listen to them. That stuff dictates whether you see the end of the round or whether you go to the fucking hospital for fucking concussion protocol.
Yeah, I agree. It was absolutely a little disappointing to see him not only ignoring the champ, but like RJ said, just ignoring his corner in general. Moving on from there, though, holy shit. I will say this. Walt Harris looked good for 4 minutes and 3 seconds. And then Marcin Tybura went, you know what? I don't think I want to play this game anymore. Let's just finish now. And good night. Marcin swept Walt right off of his goddamn feet. And then once he hit the ground and Marcin started raining down fucking big ass crazy pull-off shots on him, Walt had no choice but to turtle up. And when you're a big dude, you're getting hammered on and you turtled up, 99.9% of the time, that's the end of the fight. They're not going to give you a chance to stand back up. They're not going to give you a chance to wrestle your way out of it. When you're in the heavyweight division and you turtle up as you're getting hammer fisted, it's over. That's all she wrote. And that's exactly what we saw happen. Walt did not look terrible in the beginning. But the moment that Walt stopped looking good, it was an irreversible process. When that switch flipped and he went from, I can do this, to, oh shit, I'm in trouble, he basically gave up, in my opinion. And Marcin Tybura saw it and took advantage of it. I love Walt Harris, man. I really do. I think he's a great human being. I think he's a fucking amazing fighter. I think he's an even better journalist, which a lot of people don't realize. The Anatomy of a Fighter series that Walt Harris does, he doesn't just put a camera in front of fighters and ask them a couple questions. He literally goes, like, for the Khabib that he did, he went to Dagestan. He lived in the fucking hills. He wore a robe and sandals. He walked and fucking herded sheep. He lives their lives to show you their life, not what the people want you to see, not what the media want to portray, not what their manager wants you to think of them. He lives their fucking lives and show you. Honestly, at this point, I feel like that's where he needs to go. He whether it's intentional or it's subconscious, he is focused so much more on the journalism side of his life than he has the MMA side of it. And now we're at a point where it's starting to show. And at the level that he competes, you can't be that unfocused. And Marcin showed that very clearly. And it's going to come off like a backhanded compliment, and I don't mean it to be, but if you're going to let somebody like Marcin Tybura bitch slap you to the ground like that and have his way with you, the guys in the top of this division aren't going to give you that opportunity. You got 4 minutes more with Tybura than you would have gotten with Francis. I hate that it has come to this, but Walt Harris has to be done with fighting. He cannot stay in that octagon anymore for whatever reason, and it's understandable. But he just cannot put enough focus into the octagon anymore to keep himself at the level he is competing, and that's going to be horrible, horrible for his future if he doesn't get the fuck out of there soon. It's a horrible thing to say, but I don't want to see him fight anymore. I don't want to see us having to rely on the sportsmanship and the morality of his opponent to not see him get fucked up bad. And luckily, the last couple of guys they put him against, we have gotten that. We have gotten genuine, good sportsmen. We've gotten clean morale fighters who aren't going in to just fuck you up, and they understand the situation, and they've given him graceful outs. That's not always going to be the case, and I don't want to keep watching to see if Walt can get it back together and if the guy he's fighting is going to be nice enough to stop when the ref pulls him off, or is he going to get fucked up and he's never gonna be able to fight again. It's time for Walt to lay it down.
You know where I feel like he's at right now? I feel like Walt is in that same spot that Anthony Lionheart Smith was in. That's some really traumatizing shit happened. And he went on a skid. I feel like Walt is in the middle of that shit. We've seen Anthony Smith bounce back from it. This is 2-fight skid for Walt. It's not the worst thing that could possibly happen, but at the same time, if his head's not in the game 100%, I don't want to see him in the octagon anymore. And I get it, man. That type of shit, nobody is ready for. Nobody can say, we understand what you're going through. I get you're going through something that I'll never be able to understand, or at least I hope I'll never have to understand.
Right.
But man, if your head's not fully in it at this point, do yourself a favor and lay him down, man. It's not there's no shame in this at all. Not after everything you've been through. I have no fucking qualms if he was to retire and lay him down. Don't get me wrong. The selfish bastard in me says, Walt, you can do better. I know you can. We've seen it. But the smart in me goes, yeah, dude, I don't want to see you get hurt, man. I don't want to see you have a lifelong problem because you didn't know when to give it up. But to be quite honest, though, I really think we're going to see him again. And I have a feeling he's in that same thing Anthony Smith was going through with the whole fucking have a really traumatic shit happen. And it takes a minute to get your fucking groove back. I think he's still in the middle of getting his groove back.
I hope so. I genuinely do. Like I said, I fucking love Walt Harris as a human being, as a fucking man, as a fighter. I have so fucking much respect for Walt Harris. And contrary to popular belief, combat sports fans, MMA fans, even as rabid as myself, I don't love this sport because I like watching dudes get hurt. I don't like this sport. I don't like this world because I like seeing people get injured. I love this sport because this is physical chess with dire consequences. Period. I don't want to see someone I have so much respect for, someone I like so much, get hurt just because he can't get it together, man. This is the UFC, and I hate to sound like that asshole, but I will. If you got to get it together, you better go to Bellator for a while. You know, that's where you go to make your secondary run, or you go get some more experience. He clearly doesn't need to go all the way back to a local circuit level. But if he's still got to keep working on figuring this out, he can't do it in the UFC, man. The level of competition, especially at heavyweight, is just too fucking high. I hope it all gets straightened out. I really, really genuinely want to see everything work out for him, but I just have a sneaky suspicion it's not gonna.
I mean, like, what I honestly would hope, run the rest of your contract, because he still has a couple fights. Just take a year. He's 37. Take a year. Do like a year of PFL to stay sharp, to keep your just to keep everything just honed in, and just take a year. Get yourself together, therapy, be with your family, be with friends, get yourself back together. And then if after a year, be like, okay, I'm mentally stronger than I was today last year. And if he thinks that he's okay to step back in the UFC, I would be completely fucking okay with him just taking a step back. That would be really good for him as a human being and still being relevant in fighting. Or the Bellator, make a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. Either way, step out of the UFC for a little while, put some sponsors back on your fucking shorts, make some money without having to worry about getting your entire fucking career ended, so you can tune back up, as it were, and then come back and make a run for it when you're ready to run for it. Don't get your fucking head beat in because you're still focusing on everything else. And that sucks. But That's where we're at. So that'll bring us into our main event from Saturday night. Jairzinho, Biggie Boy, Rosenstruik versus Augusto Sakai. To say this fight was controversial is a bit of an understatement, in my opinion. Pretty much everyone that was watching this fight with me was in agreement. We literally had to wait for the official announcement because we couldn't tell if they were trying to call that the end of the fight or if that was the end of the round, because the bell went off and everything happened at that moment. I can see how they would have stopped the fight when they did, where they called it, at 4:59. I don't agree with it. I don't think that was the end of the fight by any stretch of the imagination. I can see how they would have stopped it, though. In my opinion, Augusto was winning that fight very clearly. And in a very Marcin versus Walt kind of moment, Augusto was winning until he wasn't. When Jairzinho caught him, he caught him hard. And when he had him on the ground and was swinging down, it wasn't the same kind of turtle up movement that we saw Walt go into, but you could see that Augusto was definitely rocked and was on the ground in defensive position. I get that. I get why they stopped it. I just don't agree with it. Good on Jairzinho for getting a literal last second in the round. They called it 4:59 in round one stoppage. But man, that's not only is that hard to get excited about that win, it's hard to really try and use that as justification to push him back up the rankings again, to try and shove him back into that title conversation, because he's still top five. Realistically, Rosenstruik is still a top five heavyweight. But that stoppage in that situation, it left a lot to be desired. Is I think the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with how that was stopped in any way, shape, or form. He dropped Sakai. Sakai was still coherent. He was still attempting going in to block himself, and then the fight got called. I think Rosenstruik landed 2 punches and not fucking hammer fist straight to the face, just fucking balls to the wall trying to kill him. There are 2 just decent punches. I don't understand how that was called a fight. I don't, no way, shape, or form that needs to be just stricken from the books and brought down to like a no contest, because that was bullshit. That was a horrible fucking call.
Yeah, it was a weird end. However, my thought on this is, okay, let's say the round ends. How much is Sakai going to come back in a minute after that? I really don't think a whole lot, because he did get touched up pretty good right at the end of the round. Whether it should have been stopped right there, I don't know, and it wasn't really clear. But at the same time, I don't think he would have came back and done much better in the second round after that, because at that point you're going to be on shaky fucking legs. Period. We already know what Rosenstruik is capable of, and if you've got somebody who's on shaky legs, I think it would have only been worse for him in the second. So, to be quite honest, albeit a little sketchy of a stop, I'm okay with it because it stops Kai from taking more damage than he needed to. And credit where credit's due. Rosenstruik fucking ran him down, literally fucking ran him down to fucking hit him. Because look, Sakai was on his fucking bicycle a lot that round, a lot during that fight, and with all the reason in the fucking world, he's seen what he can do. So I mean, Weird stoppage, yes, but fitting, also yes, in my opinion. They just purely on the fact that I don't think he would have done really well going into the second. I think it would have been a whole lot more of how the fucking first ended with a lot more damage taken than was necessary. But, either way, still a little weird, but I just didn't see him coming out well in the second if they would have made it to a second round. But definitely a little bit of a strange ending to that fucking main event last week. We must have doggy daycare issues again. So that about wraps up last week's UFC card, and not sure what he had on the docket next, but I say we jump on over to the shorter um, of this upcoming weekend's things, Bellator. Because Bellator is coming up, and there's a lot. Well, I won't say a lot, but there are a few fights there on the Bellator card this weekend that are going to be worth a watch. Of course, you've got the main event, Douglas Lima and Yaroslav Amasov. I'm probably martyring his name because when you're looking at that, but you've got a couple other ones on there. On the prelims, my fucking highlight fight, to be quite honest, is I'm looking forward to that Nick Newell and Bobby King fight. And watching both of those guys weigh in today, it's something threw me off today. What I saw their weigh in. It's weird how skeleton like Nick Newell looks when he weighs in to fucking make lightweight. Like, almost that I feel like he should almost go up a little bit, but at the same time,
I was just gonna say, I kind of feel like he could probably get away with fighting at welterweight pretty easily.
well, because like if you look at how Bobby King weighed in, he just looked ripped and shredded. He didn't look sunk in or overly thin, but Nick Newell, man, that dude was he was looking a little rough. Like if you watch his training videos, he's a pretty thick guy. Like for one to be fighting 155, he's pretty heavy, but he looked a little skeletonish. But then again, on the same side, I don't think him going up to fucking welterweight would do him any fucking good because 170 he might have some issues there. But this definitely going to be an interesting fight to watch, especially being Bobby King's been on a tear. Now finally getting his chance to make it into a bigger promotion. They're not giving him any fucking passes here. I mean, anybody who is not familiar with Nick Newell, we talked about him about when he made his Bellator debut. What was it, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now? The UFC passed him up because he's got a disability. Bellator said, well, fuck you, we'll take him. Nick Newell's first fight in Bellator gets a fucking gorgeous rear naked choke finish. He had a rough last outing, but he's not going to be a walk in the park for Bobby King. And this fight has quite a bit of excitement to it, in my own personal opinion. But Nick Newell is no fucking slouch. Not to mention, if you want just a good time, go watch that dude's social media because the dude is fucking. He's got some funny shit that he posts. Like you're guaranteed to laugh at least once a day through the shit he posts. Even better yet, he was still posting shit today after weigh-ins to give you shit to laugh about. The dude is a meme machine.
Yeah, he fucking is.
It's gonna be an exciting fight for me.
I absolutely agree. There's really only 3 fights on the Bellator card that I had any interest in talking about at all. Obviously, Nick Newell versus Bobby King. And again, obviously, we're all fucking team Nick Newell here. The other one, the co-main event, is very interesting as well. Paul Daly taking on Jason Jackson. This very much has the potential to be a passing of the torch kind of moment here. Paul Daly has basically spent his last, I'll say a month and a half, 2 months or so, rather than in prepping for this fight, doing his social media to try and push to be the next guy that one of, he doesn't care which, the Paul brothers boxes. So he very clearly is not eyes on the prize with fucking MMA here in Bellator. And that's a dangerous position for anyone to be in, but let alone another fucking killer coming out of Sanford MMA in Jason Jackson. If you follow his social media as well, he is literally every day down at fucking Sanford training with Henry Hoof, training with all the fucking killers they've got in there. Ong Lang San, fucking LDV, Rumble Johnson, Kamaru. Like, they've got a whole squad full of legitimate bad motherfuckers down at Sanford. And Jason Jackson is always, and I mean always, in the middle of every goddamn practice, every fucking exercise, everything. Follow all of the guys from Sanford MMA socials. He's in there every goddamn day putting in work. And then you've got a clown like Daly, who, to his credit, has had some great fights in the past. But that was when he was in his prime, and that's when he was focused. And he hasn't been either of those things in a hot minute now. And that's a bad combination to have on your back going into a fight against a dude like Jason fucking Jackson. I really, really feel like this is Daly trying to show out too much, thinking he's still better than he is. And I think Jason Jackson's going to fuck him up for it. I think Jason Jackson's going to put him on his ass tomorrow.
Dude, no, I'll say it out loud. Me personally, I have had a long-standing hatred for Paul Daly for a long time. For a long fucking time. And this goes all the way back to his UFC days. At first, I had no issue with the guy. He was just another loudmouth knockout artist. What really made me lose all respect for him and any credibility was the night that he ended up fighting one curly blonde-haired wrestler motherfucker who did have a tendency to get knocked out a lot later in his career. But Daly got worked the entire fucking fight and then throws a punch after the fight is over, like completely over, just fucking cold cocks him. Couldn't even knock him out then. Like, you can't knock out Josh Koscheck. You're really not that great of a knockout artist. If anybody's ever watched Josh Koscheck fight, great fucking wrestler. He had a good run for a little while. Then all of a sudden he became just a ticking time bomb to fall asleep in the middle of the fucking octagon. And Paul Daly couldn't manage to do it when he wasn't defending himself. After the bell, I lost all respect for him years ago. Like, anytime I even see him on a card, to be honest, I think of him as another Voldemort. I don't want to say his name. I don't think he belongs in the sport. I don't think he ever did belong in the sport after that. Like, the second Dana White said, "You'll never fight in the UFC again," I think he should have been blackballed from ever fighting anywhere. Should have been blackballed.
I agree.
But here we are having to talk about this cocksucker who doesn't know how to keep his shit together, and he still thinks his shit doesn't stink. I hope Jason Jackson goes in there and just absolutely rips that motherfucker's head off, shits down his throat, cuts off his legs, and then beats him over the top of the head with them. Like, I want to see some shit where this dude is fed to fucking lions. Because that kind of shitbag, not acceptable to be in our sport.
All right, so tell us how you really feel about it now.
Fuck Paul Daly. Look, I know that was years and years and years ago. Like, for some of you guys who are still new to the sport, it's not something you guys are going to remember because you haven't been around long enough, but I clearly remember watching that fight and watching Koscheck just beat his ass, just takedowns at will, and just
threw him the fuck around.
Yeah, threw him the fuck around like a goddamn rag doll. And then to come and throw a punch after the fight's over, dude, fuck you. Just take your L and move on with life. At this point, fuck you. You feed him to the fucking lions. Like, you want to see the season thing? We're doing this. Nah, fucking off with his fucking head.
That's right. No, I completely agree. I think it's about time for Daly to get a little fucking crow that he can't avoid. And I think Jason Jackson's just the type of dude to hand him that fucking plate. That, though, will bring us over to the main event, the other fight that I cannot let you people get through this episode without fucking mentioning. In my opinion, Douglas Lima is one of the best champions Bellator has ever seen, period. I understand that Yaroslav Amsov has an official record of 25-0. Two things. One, just like Khabib, because that's who they compare him to, your 25-0 means absolute dog shit because at least 17 of those 25 were unnamed, unknown, unranked soup cans that you were supposed to go in and beat. Your ranking in your organization is not 25-0. So stop all that shit altogether. Number two, just because Khabib is no longer active does not mean that Yaroslav, now automatically becomes the new Khabib. Fuck off on both counts. Now, I will say this. Yaroslav Amosov is a bad motherfucker. He definitely is one of those typical Russian wrestlers, strong sambo background. He's got decent fucking hands to him, but that's decent hands in the middle of a division in Bellator. Douglas Lima is not in Bellator because he has to be. I'll put it that way. Douglas Lima is in Bellator because he likes to make money putting on good fights. And that's exactly what he's doing over there. Douglas Lima, fuck, both of the Lima boys, could easily hold very, very good water in the UFC currently. Douglas is Diego rather, is on a bit of an injury right now, so we haven't seen him as much, but when he is active, he is a bad motherfucker. Diego could have stuck around, or Douglas rather, but I think he wanted to go the Bellator route. I think Amislav could put up a good fight here. I don't think this is going to be a quick one and done match, but I don't think it's going to be what a lot of the Bellator homers think it's going to be. People seem to think for some reason that Yaroslav's going to come in here and grab Douglas Lima and put him on his back and have his way with him. And that's all well and good to think, but ask MVP what happens when you blink for 2 seconds in front of Douglas Lima, because you end up doing the stanky leg. And Amsov is not immune from getting stanky legged. I promise you that. I think he's going to come in with all intents to try and take that belt, and he's going to take this fight very seriously. But he just is not on the level of a Douglas Lima, in my opinion. I think Lima is going to come in. He's going to warm up in round one like he generally does. And when 2 comes out, he's going to start getting loose. If we make it to 3, that's when we generally see Douglas Lima really start to put the pressure on and take away any advantage you might have thought you had in the fight before. He just looked for that opening to end it for you. And I think that's kind of exactly where we're going to go tomorrow night. I don't know if we're going to see round 3, but if we do, I think that's as far as it goes. I think Douglas is either going to take him out in the end of 2 or beginning of 3. And I don't think it's going to be the end of Yaroslav by any stretch of the imagination. He will absolutely come back and still be a relevant force to be reckoned with. But Douglas Lima is on another fucking level, in my opinion. And I think he shows out. I think we get to see a little bit of that on Friday night.
To be quite honest, I think this is going to be more of a one-sided affair than people think it's going to be. I don't think that Amosov has the fucking capability to deal with Douglas Lima. At this point in his career, if you look at his record, look at who he's beaten. There's not really any named opponent on there that says he's even worthy of taking on this fight itself. To be honest, what got him there is 25-0. Albeit you walked down the dented soup can aisle and fucking knocked everything off the shelf again. That doesn't immediately grant you a fucking title shot. But I guess, when Douglas Lima is making fucking short work of everybody in the welterweight division there, you got to start coming up with other options. So I guess here we are.
I agree. Wrapping it back around real quick here, because I had to step out for just a moment. Last Saturday's UFC performance of the night bonus. We did get 2 performance of the night bonuses and a fight of the night, like we fucking should be doing. Fight of the night, Ponzinibbio versus Baeza. I told you guys that was a great fucking battle. They got their fucking bonus for it. It was so goddamn good. Performance of the night, Tybura for that fucking Wall Harris rock, and they gave it to Rosenstrike for the stoppage on Sakai. Understandable, not the greatest, but again, the card didn't give you a whole lot to work with. medical suspensions. For the most part, pretty fucking regular for that card, with the exception of a few. One, it turns out Ayir Latifi actually broke his arm during that fight and hit it very well. He has to have a full clearance from the doctor because he broke it at the elbow. So he has to have an MRI and full clearance by a doctor, or he is suspended until December 3rd, which makes sense. Alan Patrick, who caught the fucking finger to the eye from hell, has to be cleared by an ophthalmologist because it actually sliced his eyelid. So they have to clear him on his ocular retention now, or he's gone till December 3rd, which makes sense. And then another one that we didn't really hear anything about until these came out, Sean Woodson in the second fight of the night actually broke his left hand and possibly tore his ACL in his left knee, did not let on to either of those injuries during the match. So he actually has to be cleared by 2 different sets of doctors, or he's out until December 3rd. But props to fucking Woodson for being a badass and fighting with a broken hand and a fucking torn ACL and not giving you even the slightest fucking hint he was in any pain for that fucking match. That's kind of fucking badass right there. But that will bring us into a quick little news and recent events we have got for you guys before we jump into some UFC talks here. The first one I want to go over real quick because it's kind of a happy and sad news announcement. After his release from the UFC, Alistair Overeem has decided that he is done with MMA, and that makes me very happy. The part that doesn't make me very happy is that he's decided he's going back to kickboxing and has signed a multi-fight contract with Glory Kickboxing to get back into the squared circle. Oh, man. I'm both excited and nervous to see how that plays out. Oops, sorry. Just got a message I can answer real quick here. Sorry, wife's wondering about dinner. Okay, so from there, moving along from where we're going to see the Reem next, we got a couple of actual fight announcements here. The first one from over on the Bellator side of the house, Bellator 261, their next pay-per-view event coming up at the end of the month, June 25th, has now officially had their co-main event added. They have officially rebooked a fight that we heard rumors about previously and is now confirmed. Liz Carmouche taking on Kana Watanabe, the One and Ryzen former champion as well. So this is going to be kind of like we thought when we first reported on it, that this looks like they are setting up Liz for her shot at the title. You take on a former champion from another organization that gets brought in, you make clean work of them, and put your name in the title conversation in your organization pretty quick. I kind of feel like that's what they're doing here with Liz, and it makes sense. You don't want her sitting on the fucking sidelines for long. So that's going to be a great fucking matchup to see fall when it works out. Another literal last second announcement, 45 minutes ish, half an hour before we went on to the show, post weigh-in, after the weigh-ins were completed and everyone had made weight, Vanessa Porto was not cleared medically by the doctors at the Mohegan Sun, and their fight has subsequently against Iliara Joanna been scrapped from the card, which sucks because that was going to be a fucking spectacular matchup in my opinion.
Oh, you know, I'm not surprised. That was also a last minute put together too for those two girls so they could have their fight. So shit like that slips through the cracks when you do fucking last minute shenaniganry. It just is what it is.
Yeah, no, it just sucks. But again, the way that things have been running lately, especially considering we just got done talking about Liz Carmouche versus Watanabe being rebooked again, I have faith that they will most likely remake this matchup for us in the future because it is a great match and I think it holds a lot of weight in that division. But speaking of fights who have been rebooked and we were waiting to find out, Julia on Julia violence is still gonna take place for us here. The panda, the kung fu panda herself, Julia Avilia, will be stepping back in against Julia Stoliarenko, who we have not really seen since her fucking Ultimate Fighter appearance, taking on the June 26th card, so the night after the Bellator 261 card. One quick little mention here now that they are mostly done, because we're going to move on either way. PFL 4 has taken place this evening. Notable victories: Shaman Morais, former UFC fighter, wins via submission Kimura 4 minutes 59 seconds into round 2. Dueling former UFC fighters Marcin Held and Olivier Aubin Mercier, OAM, the Canadian gangster himself, went at it. OAM defeated Marcin Held via unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. That was kind of a big deal. Former UFC fighter and Ultimate Fighter contender Tyler Diamond actually ended up just losing a minute ago via majority decision to one thorn in Dana White's side I'm sure he could get rid of. A gentleman by the name of Brandon Loughnane, who competed on the Contender Series not once but twice, won, and Dana said he was not exciting enough to sign. And Brandon Loughnane, to his credit, has turned around since then and put on nothing but exciting fights, and I believe 3 different organizations after that. So Dana's a fucking idiot, and Loughnane is still out here kicking ass and taking names, even against other former UFC fighters. So that's interesting. The only 2 fights left on that card that are really worth following up on is the Clay Colliard fight, which is coming up next. Clay Colliard being the one who took out Anthony Pettis in his very first fight in the PFL very handily. And then Clarissa Shields versus Brittany Elkin, which will be their main event. I'm sure we will talk about the recap for that next weekend when we get back to you guys. The last couple of pieces of news I want to go over here before we jump into some UFC stuff. Again, this is all last minute, these here. As of 7 p.m. tonight, Dat Nguyen has officially been stripped of his belt and released officially from the BKFC organization when he won the belt in a very, very controversial decision match against Johnny Bedford in their last outing. Little did anyone realize that was the last fight on his contract, and he has spent the entire time since then basically demanding that BKFC literally double his paychecks. And David Feldman, to his credit, was like, no, fuck off. We'll take that belt back and you can go try your luck somewhere else. So they announced that Johnny Bedford is obviously going to be the first one to get a chance to get his fucking belt back, and will be taking on Charles Barnett Jr. at BKFC 19 later on this summer, co-main eventing under Paige Van Zandt and Rachel Ostovich to get his motherfucking belt back. I did not agree with them giving that fucking decision to Dat Nguyen in that fight to begin with. He came out and he fought his ass off. I'll give him that. But he did not beat Johnny Bedford. He should have never had that fucking belt to begin with. So good riddance to bad fucking rubbish. Let him get out the fucking way and let Bedford get back and get his goddamn belt back. He fucking deserves it. Last minute announcement on the UFC side just this evening. Stepping in to the UFC 266 card on September 21st will be Jessica Andrade getting back in the swing of things, taking on Cynthia Calvillo. So they have officially resigned Andrade to soup can contender status. She is officially out of any talks of getting back to a title anytime soon if they're throwing her against the likes of the Calvillo. So good, they finally caught on. The last kind of disheartening, really, news that I have to report here was the last minute announcement for the official Game Bred FC Bare Knuckle MMA Organizations card coming up. The main event will be Jason Knight versus Charles Felony Bennett. The co-main event we have now had confirmed will be Brandon Jenkins, former LFA champion, taking on one Brock Weaver, former UFC laughingstock. I get that unsigned talent or guys that aren't going to fight with Dana to get into the ring are few and far between, but putting Felony in against Bennett, or against Bedford rather, in your main event, and then Brock Weaver against anyone in the co-main event just feels to me like Game Bred might not have his shit as together as he thinks he does. And I feel like this is kind of going to expose that when the event actually takes place, if it actually gets that far. But we'll see once we get there. That, however, will bring us into the namesake for this particular episode, this weekend's upcoming UFC 263 Adesanya versus Vettori, or as I like to refer to it, 75 minutes for 2 belts and a bone. We'll get to that a little bit more once we get into the main card. But to be fair, this is one of those examples that we use when we talk to you guys about how the card before a pay-per-view and the card after a pay-per-view are generally dog shit. And it's because they take all of the good fights these days and cram them all in to that pay-per-view for us. It's a double-edged sword because we do get a lot of good fights on a pay-per-view card, but it definitely fucks at least the card before and after that pay-per-view, in my opinion. This is a pretty good example of just that in the 263 lineup here. Sorry, it's throwing me off. I'm looking at the UFC page, and for some reason they already have a win showing on one of the fights, and the card isn't for 2 more days. Threw me off for a second. The early prelims might be not only the largest early prelim card that I can remember, but also one of the best. Carlos Felipe versus Jake Collier needs to happen. 2 big men on their way up to the top. Great fight to open the fucking card with, in my opinion. Chase Hooper versus Steven Peterson. We get to see what Chase Hooper has been working on. We know he's been following other sports and inducting other members into the Askren family. Has he been working on his striking, though? This is very important, just like in the Montana De La Rosa situation. We will find out if he is still just a threat on the ground and a soup can on the feet, or if he has been doing his homework, because Steven Peterson can fucking stand and bang. He might not be the best wrestler, but Peterson can stand and bang. So that's going to be a good challenge for him. Unfortunately, Matt Frivola's previous opponent has had to step out. So now we've got Frivola versus Terrence McKinney. Interesting matchup, maybe not the greatest, but the early premier prelim match, Pani Kianzad, who I fucking swear to you has now been cut from the UFC twice and still keeps getting fights. I don't understand it. Taking on Alexis Davis. This might be the single worst fight on this card, in my opinion, and how they not only managed to get both of them on a pay-per-view, but put them in a premier position, I say with air quotes, I don't fucking understand. This, I am going to tell you right now, will be one of those, go get your popcorn, go refill your drinks, go take a piss if you need to. This is an intermission kind of fight. The fact that they put it in a premier position really kind of gets under my fucking skin, in case you guys haven't noticed yet. This is not going to be an exciting fight. This is not going to have any fucking impact whatsoever on their division. What it is going to do is take up time. And that, I feel, is kind of why the UFC has got it on this card. Bump along from there, though, the prelim card. These 4 prelim fights, in my opinion, could have been an entire fight night main card. 100% without fail. You could have taken these 4 fights and made them next week's fight night main card all by themselves, and it would have been absolutely fucking acceptable. Movsar Evliov, another from the Russian Fighting League where our homeboy Nate the Great Landwehr came from, came out last time and showed the fuck out, showed us why we need to keep paying attention to that motherfucker. And how can you not love Mean Hakeem Dawoodu? Another one of the few Contender Series stars who was legitimately come from the mountain of shit and turned into an actual respectable fighter here. Stylistically, this is going to be fucking insane. They're both little dudes who go ape shit. It's going to be a goddamn fun fight. I guarantee you, Fresh is going to be giggling like a little kid on a playground during this match. That will bring us into one of the stranger fights on this card, in my opinion here. Lauren Murphy at number 3 versus Joanne Calderwood at number 6, both of whom are convinced the winner is getting the next title shot for some reason. I like Joanne Calderwood. I like Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy legitimately has a claim to a title shot based on her resume, based on her actual star value, her recognizableness, her home interpretation, as it were, for the fans. Probably not so much. Calderwood, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. She has the personality, she has the name that people recognize. Everybody loves that bad mofo JoJo, but her fighting leaves a lot to be desired, especially when you start talking about title shots. It's going to be real interesting to see how this fight plays out, because stylistically they are very similar, but I'm more interested to see how the aftermath of that fight plays out than the fight itself, if that makes sense. Eric ya boy Anders versus Darren Stewart. As much as this is an opportunity for Eric Anders to kind of get back where he needs to be to not get cut, I almost feel like this is more of an opportunity for Darren Stewart to show that the loss against Kevin Holland, which we all agreed, including Kevin Holland, was not a loss, should not have stayed a loss. And if you watch Darren Stewart's social media lately, that he's got a chip on his shoulder because of it. It's been grinding at him that everyone, including the guy he fought, acknowledged that he should have won that fight. So I feel like Stewart has a lot more to prove here than Eric Anders does, and I think it's going to be a pretty goddamn fight, pretty goddamn good fight to watch. Either way it plays out. Now, the actual premier prelim on this card, in my opinion, could absolutely have been a main event on a fight night. 100%. Drew Dober versus Brad Quake Riddell is going to be, in my opinion, the dark horse fight of the night. Now, obviously, we've got 2 title fights and then a 25-minute bullshit circus going on later on the main card. But I'm telling you right fucking now, this fight has got the potential to steal the whole fucking show. These dudes are so similar stylistically. They're so similar size-wise. They're so similar mentality-wise. And they're both very, very good prospects. And I use that term loosely only because neither of them have been in the UFC for that terribly long. Both of them have had ups and downs in their careers, but I am telling you right now, these boys are coming to fucking play Saturday night, and I'm 100% confident that this has every potential to steal the whole fucking show.
The best thing about this fight is this one was supposed to have happened like 3 times already, and it's finally going to happen. So we're finally getting the closure on this fucking chapter of the book. And to be quite honest, this is the perfect kind of matchup you want to see. You want to see a guy that's right on the cusp in the top 15 taking on a guy who's right at the fucking edge of the top 15. This is the kind of fight you want to see to progress the lightweight division along. And right now they do need a little bit of help progressing because lightweight division's getting a little stale at the top. As much as I hate to say it, we do need something to shake up, and maybe these guys can show something that shows, hey, they're worthy of starting to look at top 10 opponents, you know?
Yeah. But that will bring us over into our main card of the evening. Ironically, first fight on the main card is one of the only fights I believe does not belong on the main card, for 2 reasons. One, this is number 14 versus number 15. This isn't something people should have to pay to see. This is literally the bottom 2 ranks in the division. You shouldn't have to pay to see those 2 guys fight. Put that shit on the fucking prelims. 2, this fight has no big bearing on the division because, again, it's 14 and 15 fighting. But I think the biggest reason I have very little interest in seeing this fight, not only on the main card, but in general, is that Jamal Hill has basically said that the reason he wants this fight is because he thinks Paul Craig is a racist and heard him talking to someone else and swore that he overheard a racial epithet. So he has basically created in his mind this entire feud against the man he doesn't know and made presumptions about him off of some overheard secondhand information.
Hearsay is a motherfucker.
Right? You're going to create a whole fucking drama storm around a dude over some hearsay, some shit you yourself didn't fucking hear clearly. That's fucking dumb. That's dumb. Not only is that dumb, but that makes me root for Paul Craig more than I was already going to. All fucking suspicion of hearsay and whatnot aside, I'm a Paul Craig fan because he's a badass fucking fighter. If you can't hang with the dude, just say you can't hang with the dude. If you're worried about the dude, just be worried about the dude. Don't make up bullshit and create false narratives to try and hype your own shit up. I don't fucking like that. Now I hope Paul Craig knocks you the fuck out.
Look, I'll be the first to say it. If he did say some shit like that, fuck Paul Craig.
And I was gonna get, I was gonna get there as well. But
however, on the other side of that, you can't go off of, well, Sally's uncle said he overheard a guy that may possibly have said this, but then it got construed to this, that, and the other thing. You can't do that. You didn't hear it firsthand. If it didn't come from the horse's mouth, it wasn't fucking said. Period. Hearsay doesn't pass in a court of law, nor does it pass in this situation. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay for anybody to be racist at all, because it's not, period. However, you can't make this a big, oh, I fucking hate you because of something somebody told me they thought they heard. I mean, don't get me wrong, if that's what you got to use to hype yourself up, keep it to your fucking self. Don't put it out in the fucking world.
That's exactly how I thought. If you're going to create this narrative in your head and you're going to use that to hype yourself up, keep that right fucking here. You don't get to spill that bullshit out of your fucking mouth on some hearsay.
And
but,
if it's
again, like you guys said, if it is true, fuck Paul Craig all over the place and he'll never get another fucking word of praise on this show. I have a hard time believing it, though.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. I have a hard time believing it. And then the same point, I mean, like I said, if that's what you need to hype yourself up, keep it out of the fucking news. Now, if it's not what he said 100%, I hope you get a defamation lawsuit thrown up in your fucking face and you end up fucking losing this fight and then having to figure out where you're going to come up with a fucking $1 million. Because, you know, you defame somebody who's literally moving up the light heavyweight ladder at a pretty good rate now that he got his shit back together. Jamal Hill, dude, I think you may have bitten off more than you can chew and put some words in some mouths that you shouldn't have. You're lucky he doesn't live in the States, because if he did, that would be in a state courtroom already. Fucking guaranteed. Especially in this day and age. Look, in this day and age of what's going on and everything, shit like that is not taken lightly. Especially if it's defamatory and fucking false. If it's true, I'll retract everything I've just said. But I'm not retracting it until I hear it directly.
Exactly.
So, just saying, Paul Craig, I hope he knocks the ever-living shit out of you. Fucking just drown and pound you until you're unrecognizable to your fucking family. I don't generally wish ill on somebody, but when you're going to call somebody a fucking racist for something you didn't hear directly, shut the fuck up. And
that's when you get a big old
your little interaction of Schmo, well, you still got teeth. I think, Mr. Hill, you need to be doing that right now, because I think it's time for the Bear Jew to deal with some racism right here. Because to be quite honest, that's what it sounds like to me. You're gonna throw that shit to try to no. Look, racism goes both ways, buddy. I hate to tell you that.
I agree. But that stupid bullshit aside, the rest of the card's not fucking bad. The next fight we've got, not quite the best in the lineup, but not nearly as aggravating as Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. Damian Maia versus Bilal Muhammad in what is being unofficially touted as Damian Maia's retirement match. Damian has said that win or lose, that this is most likely the last time we will ever see him in the octagon. This is, I believe, the last fight on his contract as well. This is another one of those situations I'll say it. It reminds me a lot of Anderson Silva. You've got a guy who helped bring this fucking organization to a household name, and he is on his way out after fighting the greatest portion of his career in your organization. And rather than letting him get a fight that he is interested in for his retirement fight, you throw him against the latest asshole who needs a fucking opponent. Bilal Muhammad should be fighting Leon Edwards again. We shouldn't have to deal with this Leon and Nate shit. We shouldn't have to deal with Damian versus Bilal. We should be seeing Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards on a fucking prelim card of a fight night 2 weeks from now. Instead, we've got Damian Maia versus Bilal Muhammad. Honestly, I don't know how this fight's going to go. If Bilal Muhammad comes out the way that he normally does, there's every opportunity for Damian Maia to take him to the ground and submit the living dog shit out of him, which I would absolutely love to see. On the other hand, if we see the same Damian Maia come out Saturday night that we saw against Tyron Woodley, who is literally willing to eat shot after shot in a desperate attempt to get a takedown to bring the fight to the ground, Bilal's going to retire him into unconsciousness. And I don't like fucking saying that because I don't like Bilal Muhammad as a person or a fighter. Fuck him and everyone that looks like him. But if Damian Maia comes into this fight the way that he came into the Tyron Woodley fight, he's going to show the desperation of his want to get it to the ground. And Bilal does have enough strength and shot to be able to end it if that comes to it. I don't think that's how it's going to play out, but I think that's a very realistic possibility of how it could.
You know, when it comes to passing of the torches, this is not the kind of passing of a torch I want to see. I'll say it out loud. I don't think Damian Maia has it left in the tank to do it anymore. Don't get me wrong. He has the capability, but I don't think it's left in the tank.
Yeah, I just don't think it's in here anymore. I agree.
Everybody and their brother who is in the welterweight division at 170 knows exactly what Damian Maia is capable of, and that he is a very, very, very good one-trick pony. The dude has never had fucking hands. He's the Ben Askren of the BJJ world, except for he's much better at not getting knocked out. Unfortunately, I think we get to see a passing of the torch here, but not the way you want to see it. That gatekeeper is leaving the building, and to be quite honest, not the way that I want to see him leave. Much as I hate to say it, I think Bilal Muhammad stomps a mud hole in him and walks it fucking dry. And I hate to say that, but I really see it going that way. Don't get me wrong. I hope Damian Maia wins because I would love to see him go out on his last fight on his UFC contract with a W over a fucking terrible fucking Bilal Muhammad. But, you know, I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I mean, if we noticed anything from his last couple of fights, he's been on a progressive decline. So we'll see, though. Hopefully it goes against what my thoughts are that are actually going to happen here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, his last several fights have been very transparent that he's just trying to get shit to the ground, and I don't think this one's going to be any different. And with how strong Dick Face is, I'm pretty sure he's going to put him to sleep, which I don't want to see because, you know, a retirement fight, I always like to see the one retiring walk out with his hand held high, but this one, I don't think it's going to go that route.
What the fuck is that?
What is what, sir?
It's almost like there's feedback coming through the system. Can you guys hear that?
No.
get
Where's it coming from?
I fucking hate you.
There
I
you
knew
go.
it was going. I
Yeah,
fucking
fucking-
hate you.
And then go with it. The camera you got push. Do it. Hi, boys and girls. I'm Jacko the Casual Clown. Ah! 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 Not the funny clown. I'm here to punch some clowns, baby.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, our favorite casual, the one and only Clown Puncher himself, here to give you the casualist picks for this weekend's upcoming final fights.
Who's fighting?
Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz.
Ooh. We're gonna go with Nate Diaz. Because I like
Jason
a bleeder.
David
Bleeding's
Figueredo, Brandon Moreno.
Figueredo? Figaro. That's what I'm gonna go with.
And then Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vittori.
Adesanya.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Your casual clown punched picks, fresh and live right off the interwebs.
I gotta get back to work.
Restomp that groove.
I knew where it was going because the fucking first time you did it, but I fucking hate you for that.
Just when you guys
goddamn
thought we were just something.
fantastic.
Oh, we do love our clown punchers around here. God damn it. Keep sending.
I just want to know who he had to pay to dress up as a fucking clown. Who did he have to pay? And how much?
Oh, a gentleman never tells. Oh, but with that being out of the way now, that'll bring us to our People's Co-main event match of the evening, the first non-title 5-round fight, non-title, non-main event fight in the UFC. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. We've kind of talked about it a little bit here. I mentioned it a minute ago. I do not believe Leon Edwards should be A, in this fight, B, in this position in the UFC to begin with. Nate Diaz should be chasing Jorge Masvidal right now, and Leon should be fighting Bilal, really. But they're going to put us through this for some reason, forced 5-minute bout. So we're going to watch it. It's a bit of a melancholy, a bit of a fickle thing, though. Leon Edwards, based on everything he has done up until now, does not deserve to be number 3 in any stretch of the imagination. How they've graciously pushed him up to number 3 in welterweight, I don't fucking understand. But here we are. The best thing about that is that they obviously don't take him as a serious number 3 either, since they're making him fight the unranked Nate Diaz. Now, Leon is not a full soup can. I will give him that. He does have some skills, but as I mentioned time and time again, I'm a firm believer in the fact that if there are siblings in MMA, generally one of them gets the talent and the other one does. Maybe not completely lacking talent, but clearly not to the level of the sibling. Shevchenko sisters are a great example. The Usman brothers are a great example. The Figueiredo brothers are a great example. The Lima brothers, ironically, a pretty good example here. I am a firm believer that Fabian Edwards is the Edwards brother with the talent here. I don't think Leon really got it. I think Leon got the mouth, but I think Fabian has the actual fighting ability. And I think that Nate Diaz is going to show us that. I think Leon's going to come out trying to look like a badass, but I'm anticipating no less than 4 Stockton slaps before this match is over. kind of the two things that I'm fairly confident are going to happen. One, we're going to see at least 4 Stockton slaps. Two, Nate Diaz's eyebrow is going to get split open. Other than that, the rest of this whole fucking fight is up in the air. I don't think Leon has what it takes to finish Nate Diaz. The only way I can really see him winning this fight is either A, if it goes all the way to a judge's decision and he outpoints him, or B, if he manages to crack that eyebrow open early enough and get it bleeding bad enough that he gets a Jorge Masvidal-esque stoppage. Other than that, this is essentially Diaz's fight to come out and yell, "Stockton, motherfucker!" and Nick Diaz Army, and then slap Leon. That's all we're getting for 25 minutes, essentially.
I think this is our chance to get to hear I'm not surprised, motherfucker, again. I really do.
Yeah, I can see
Look,
that. There's definitely a possibility for that.
Look, at the odds makers, everybody has fucking Leon Edwards as the largest favorite on the fucking card. On the entire card for this. So not even our two fucking I'll say main events, because this I look at as the co-main event because there's no title on the line and they're giving it 5 rounds. So we're going to call this co-main event in my book. He's the largest of all of those. And I can honestly think of at least one fight of those next upcoming 2 fights that we're about to talk of that the odds makers, I think, have wrong. But in this case, I don't think he's that big of a favorite. Sure, let's give him a little bit of a favorite just because he's been a little more active than Diaz. Okay, I'll play that game. Sure. You want to give him a minus 200? Okay, I'm all right with that. But a minus 500 at the current moment, or whatever the fuck it is, something like that, is absolutely batshit crazy. Not to mention, state of Arizona, for those of you who didn't watch the press conference, has no fucking qualms about smoking the trees up until the day of the fight. They don't give a flying fuck. Oh, smoke all you want. You put Diaz in his natural environment like that, where I get a fight and I get a smoke, that's a deadly fucking combination because he's relaxed going in there, and that's how he trains. You train like you fight. If you get a fight like you train, you're a dangerous motherfucker. Look, Leon Edwards, probably the most overrated welterweight in the entire fucking UFC, in my opinion. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the UFC, because he's definitely good enough to be here. But he's not in this position. He should not be in this position. And I understand why they're giving him an unranked fucking Nate Diaz. Because to be quite honest, his number 3 rank that he has should probably be something more along the lines of like a number 12 or 15. Yeah. Way more fitting that he's fighting a Nate Diaz like that. But, all this does is, look, Nate, take this W and go get your shot at the title, man. That's about what'll happen too if he wins. When we know that's going to sell pay-per-views. The downside to that being who he would have to fight for the title. As much as I hate to say it, Usman would wreck fucking Diaz right now. Because, look what Jorge did to fucking Diaz in some simple MMA math here. And that's about probably the strongest MMA math I can use right now is he would get wrecked too. He'd get slapped. Although I think Diaz's chin's still better than fucking Jorge's and always has been. But at this point, I think we get to see Diaz do what he does best. A lot of volume, nothing hard, just point. If it ends up on the ground, Edwards is in some fucking trouble because I can definitely see him getting submitted really fucking easily. And look, you might be a little stronger than Diaz, but Diaz's fucking ground game is fucking amazing. Like, he has legitimate great jiu-jitsu. They run between him and his brother, they run a jiu-jitsu school. They're Gracie trained. They have fucking great jiu-jitsu. Who doesn't remember him locking up a triangle and just throwing up 2 middle fingers to the world while he's doing it? Look, I think Diaz gets it done. Look, here, you guys want to play bookie here? I'm gonna go ahead and say if you have money to throw at a fight, this is the money to throw at your fucking underdog. I would wait on the odds right now because I think they're gonna get
change.
they're gonna change, but I think they're gonna change better for you to bet on the underdog because I have a feeling that as the fight gets closer, they're gonna give Leon an even bigger fucking gap.
I agree.
And so you might want to wait until just before the fight kicks off to fucking let her rip in there, and then just fucking throw $100 on him. I'm guaranteeing you're gonna win. Like, at this point, it's damn near a sure thing. And I think part of this might be me being partial, but I really don't like Leon Edwards. He can fuck right off. There's something about the guy that I don't like, and I'm not sure what it is. Because to be quite honest, every interview I've ever seen with him, he's not a bad human being. There's just something off kilter about him that it doesn't flow right with me. But to be quite honest, the biggest problem I have with him is he's highly overrated. He's not as good as everyone thinks he is. So I think we just get that chance to prove, hey, you don't belong here. But I say Nate, and to be quite honest, I think it's going to end up going to decision just purely on the fucking way that Nate fights. It'll go 5 rounds. So we'll get 3 possible 5-round fights. And I say possible because I don't think those other ones are going 5 rounds.
Shit. So I call it as I see it. Edward started fighting in the UFC in 2014. A good run. A good amount of time. You should have more fights than like fucking 10. And you should have more notable victories over actual fighters, namesake fighters, people that all across the world you can say their nickname and they instantly, oh, Cowboy? Oh, you mean Donald Cowboy Cerrone? Oh, yeah. People like that. Yeah. He's only got 2 notable wins against Cowboy and a aging Dos Santos. That's about it. Where does number 3 come in with 2 notable victories over good fucking fighters? I see a 13. I don't see a top 10 though. A 13, put a 1 in front of the 3. I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at that because he does have some decent victories, a lot of stoppages, and a fuckload of decisions. And then you look at the likes of Nate Diaz going against nothing but the top of the top throughout his entire career with the UFC over current and former division champions. Just nonstop. That's all he goes for. And just overall badass motherfuckers like Jorge Masvidal. Call it like I see it. Whenever people talk about overrated, you have 2 notable wins, but yet you're number 3. You're heavily overrated. I'm not saying you're a bad fighter because you definitely have talent because you got to the UFC somehow, but dude, you're not a fucking number 3. Nate Diaz in that world is the fucking champion right now, and he hasn't fought in like a year. As TJ said, I just want to hear Stockton, motherfucker. And at the end of it, I ain't surprised, motherfuckers. In a very drunk, slurred speech. That's all I want to hear. I'd love to see Nate Diaz just knock that motherfucker on his ass, which he deserves. Fuck Edwards.
Yeah, I agree with that. That will bring us into our co-main event for this pay-per-view card. The first of 2 rematches for 2 belts on this evening or this coming evening's card. The first being the runback of the flyweight title, Davison, the God of War Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. The baby-faced assassin is getting another shot at the belt. When do you guys want this?
I'll take it because I have a feeling I know what way everybody's going. So I'm gonna just start right here because I have a feeling that I know where this is going. Let's start with first. These guys have one of the greatest fucking wars of all time already under their belt. I would not be surprised if we see that again. Now, into some fucking great things here. First fight, a fucking majority draw, which was really fucking weird. I'm wrong. I dug the fucking outcome of the fight purely because it did look like it was a fucking draw to me. The way that fucking fight played out, it was amazing. Those two literally went tit for tat. Now, to go with a little more background here, Davidson Figueredo said that he had some sort of bug or virus or something just prior to that fight or during the fight or whatever. Look, I'll say it. If that was the case, you should have pulled out and they could have rescheduled. To be quite honest, I don't believe that shit for a second. And I'm not saying it didn't happen because I don't know firsthand. I wasn't there. But I personally don't believe it. Brandon Moreno, sure, he said something about it, making a fucking saying, hey, he was making excuses. To be quite honest, he very well could have been. I'm not saying Brandon Moreno is all right for saying that. He should have just left it lay as, you know, it was a fucking draw. We're gonna run it back. Because after a fight like that, you know goddamn well, fucking Dana was on the phone immediately. Hey, boys, when do we get this back on? Both phones at the same time, talking to him at the same time, guaranteed. Because that's a fucking money fight right there. Now, David Figueredo, absolute fucking monster in flyweight. Most knockdowns, most knockouts in flyweight fucking history right now. Absolute fucking animal. Brandon Moreno is an absolute fucking workhorse across the way and obviously has a chin for days because he took the best punches Figueredo could throw at him during that. And he was hit with them and kept coming, kept pushing forward and feeding them right back. I think the best part of this, though, right now, currently what is going on with this fight, Brandon Moreno is living rent-free in Davidson Figueredo's head for no fucking reason. Davidson Figueredo, I'll say it, has made up a fuck ton of fucking excuses in his mind why there's some big fucking deal about Brandon Moreno saying, oh, he made excuses. Whatever. Doesn't matter, dude. It's done. It's over with. You could have spent fucking, you could have been sick. You could have not been sick. Whatever. I don't go out of my way to look into that because you know what? It doesn't matter to me. You still went on with the fight. It really doesn't fucking matter. If you decided to go out and fight, whether you were hurt or not, or sick or not, every fighter does it. There's no reason to give an excuse after the fight about it. Just say, hey, it is what it is. It's fucking washed. But right now, because of that, and you've made up this big fucking moniker in your head that it's such a big deal that, oh, he said you made an excuse. He's living rent-free in your fucking head. Do I know which way this fight is going to go? No, I do not. Because after that first one, to be quite honest, this could go either way. Now, if David Figueredo really was fucking that fucked up to where he fucking spent time in hospital or had the shits or whatever the case was and that was that drained, he should have pulled himself out. I'll say it right here, right now. Don't give a goddamn. If you're that fucked up that you had to see a doctor or anything for it, you should not have fought. But being a tough cocksucker, you went out there and did it anyways. Great. Now, the follow-up to that is don't make an excuse after that because you chose to do that route. You chose to go that route. And my hat's off to you. But at the same time, allowing Brandon Moreno to live in your head rent fucking free, that's not acceptable. Look, people might not like fucking Brandon Moreno because he is generally a smiley, happy fucking individual. I mean, to be quite honest, he is a better version, in my opinion, of fucking John Dodson. He's a much better version of John Dodson. Happy-go-lucky, likes to fight. But he's a much better fighter than John Dodson, in my opinion. A much, much better fighter. To be quite honest, I think what's going to give the edge in this fight right now is I think Davidson Figueiredo has Brandon Moreno living rent-free in his head, and Brandon Moreno hasn't fucking really done a whole lot to be living there. Like, you literally brought that dude in off the street, basically. You took the guy that sits on the corner saying, hey, I need money. And what he's not telling you is he has a drug problem. But you bring him into your house anyways. That's what Davidson Figueiredo did with making up this gigantic fucking thing about, oh my God, he said, I made an excuse about having a fucking weight or a fucking sickness. So fucking what? You let him live in your head rent-free. Whatever. That's your own fucking fault. I think that's what's going to make a big difference here. Can Davidson Figueiredo get that rent-free fucking bastard out of his head before that fight starts on Saturday night? If he cannot, he might not fight as clear as he normally would. There doesn't need to be a big shenaniganry like there was today after the press conference of him shoving Moreno. There was no fucking reason for that at all. I mean, there was nothing bad said about him at all during that press conference other than the normal, hey, I've got to go out here and beat this guy. I think I can do it type shit. There was nothing of, oh, your mother was a fucking hamster and your father smelled the elderberries type shit, you know? So he's all pissy with this gigantic story he's got woven in his head. Maybe that's from spending way too much time and huffing in all of those fucking hair additives from working in the hair salon caused him to fucking do that type of shit. I don't know. And I like Davidson Figueiredo. I'll say it out loud. He's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. One of the most exciting by far. But right now, my dibs are on Brandon Moreno here. Living rent-free in his head after that. I'm telling you, he's been Davidson Figueiredo, not just this week, but he's been talking about Moreno. That man's been in his head for a long time now. And I don't know if it's because he's mad about the outcome or if he's mad because, oh, he said, oh, well, he said I gave an excuse. And, well, dude, you gave an excuse. Whether it was legitimate or not, it's still an excuse. If it was that bad, you would have pulled out. Or should have pulled out. I won't say you would have because, well, fuck. If things are that bad, I would have pulled out at some point, but then I wouldn't have a son. So, same concept. That's all I'm saying. And now you're letting him live rent-free because of one fucking comment about you. He made an excuse. Dude, get fucked. Look, I get it. You get sick sometimes. You get hurt. You spend time in hospitals, you see doctors. If it's that bad, you pull out of fights. It's okay to pull out of fights. Look, guys, when it's for your own health and well-being or continuing to hold the strap, you pull the fuck out if you're injured or sick or something that can lower your performance, period. And look, I did see you fucking popped up something there. So yes, it is a legitimate fucking sickness. Still doesn't matter. Still using an excuse. Don't give a shit. Brandon Moreno lives rent-free in Davidson Figueiredo's head. Gets the job done, but I think we see another war. I think it goes all the way to decision again because Brandon Moreno is not going away. I really don't think so. I think he's going to get it done. We're going to see an new. And it's going to be a tight one. I mean, it's going to be razor fucking thin. If you look at even the odds makers on this one, I think are way off. To be quite honest right now, I have this more of a pick 'em than anything. The only reason I have it as fucking Moreno winning is because of that fucking free headspace that he didn't even try to get in. He didn't Conor McGregor him to get into his head. He literally said the dude made a fucking excuse. Figueiredo, woven gigantic story tree that goes on for generations to come so he can live rent free inside of his fucking head. Dude, you got to stop that shit. Maybe there's some sort of disconnect between speaking Spanish and fucking Brazilian Portuguese. Look, maybe something was lost in translation there. I'm guessing that's probably what it is, but it seems like you wove this gigantic web of lies to yourself for no fucking reason. I think Moreno gets it done because of that, but it's going to be really tight. And I'm not saying that's 100%. Like that's still like a 60% guess because, to be honest, I have this as a coin flip.
Meter, please correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this the Moreno fight that he came in like short notice? Or am I thinking about something else?
No, the entire fight was put together on 3 weeks' notice. It was the shortest turnaround fight, the shortest turnaround title fight in UFC history, 21 days.
Yeah, because
From
they
the
both
time
they
he
both
beat the
fought
shit out of Benavidez.
they both fought the same night in
Same
November.
night, yeah.
Okay.
Same night Royval hurt his shoulder.
Yep.
Was the same night that Figueiredo beat the brakes off of Joey B for the second fucking time.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was the one that Moreno came in on short notice because something happened to the person that they matched up previous, or if it was the one to where it was they both fought on the same night. I couldn't remember.
You were right the first time.
Okay. I'm kind of on the fence because of the amount of shit that happened between both ends, because usually you get a decent camp for a title fight on both ends of it. Moreno 3 weeks, Figueiredo 3 weeks, but apparently Figueiredo trains every fucking day of his life for title fights, which hats off. That's what you're supposed to do. That's not a very common fucking practice anymore. And you spent the entire night before in the hospital. What I would love to see and what I think is going to happen, Moreno has a whole fucking tape on how Figgy fights and his transitions of what he's doing just in that first brawl, the traditional old school early UFC fucking war, which is needed in this day and age in the UFC. You need more of those old school Chuck Liddell, fucking Tito Ortiz, just slugfest fight in a phone booth, but very intelligent fighting in a phone booth. I would absolutely love to see Brandon Moreno go back, watch the tape every fucking day since that fight, picking all of Figgy's transitions and getting his tells between what he's doing, where Moreno's going, and just breaking his entire game plan apart. Because Figueiredo's game plan is fairly linear whenever you look at it, but it's hard to fucking get into to what he's doing because he's so fucking quick, so smooth, accurate, and precise. He is a beautiful fighter. He deserves to be a champion. But I would not be mad if Brandon Moreno just sits back and just watches, see what he's doing, and use every single thing that happened in the first fight to dictate everything that he does in the second fight. Just bringing it old school. Because that's what we used to do back whenever I first started fighting, because that's what they did in fucking the professionals. That's what pros did back in the day whenever I first started fighting in MMA. You watch tapes, and apparently like nowadays that's a lost thing. But Moreno right now has the best ally between being in Figgy's head and having 25 minutes of war. I would love to see Brandon Moreno take it. But I just don't fucking know. There's too many variables between 3-week training and Figgy being in the hospital the night before. I don't know what the hell is going to be. Just, I don't know what was worse, if it was the 3 weeks of training or the night in the hospital. I just don't know, being dehydrated and everything going into your fight. I just don't know. I'd love to see Brandon Moreno take it and become the first Mexican champion that the UFC's ever had, because that'd be a fucking great a great accomplishment for him and just for the country and the sport. That'd be a fucking beautiful thing. I just don't fucking know.
He would be the first natural-born Mexican to
Yeah, the
become.
first Mexican-born champion.
Did have Cain Velasquez, but he was born stateside.
He was a California boy.
Yes, thank you for correcting me there.
So, unlike my co-host here, who I believe is unfortunately looking at this particular fight through Green Bay colored glasses, I think this one is a lot less close than most people are anticipating here. The first and the big point here that does or will weigh into it is it wasn't a rumor, it wasn't suspected, it is confirmed. Davison Figueiredo spent the night before UFC 256 in the hospital until 2:30 in the morning with a stomach infection that the UFC doctors almost didn't let him get out of the hospital to get dealt with. But he got out of the hospital, and on 3 weeks' notice and spending the night for a stomach infection in the hospital, still managed to go 5 hard rounds with Brandon Moreno and keep his belt. The other part that plays a big factor into this is that since that match, particularly just in the last, we'll say 2 months, Davison Figueiredo has spent essentially every waking moment of every single day in the brand new 15,000 square foot top of the line training facility that they had built specifically for him in his hometown, grinding every fucking minute of every hour away, working to make sure he is 100% ready for this fight, so that there is no question, there is no draw, there is no going to the decision for this matchup. Whereas on the other side of the card, Brandon Moreno has spent the last month and 3 weeks, almost the last 2 months straight, doing UFC Spanish commentary broadcasting as opposed to doing full-time training. Then you add on top of that the distraction that is doing desk work very well, which he does. He is a great commentator. He knows his shit. But to be able to do that full-time, you have to take a good percentage of your focus away from training MMA. Compound that with the fact that Brandon Moreno, specifically for this camp, I believe he said either 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, basically got a giant Airbnb house in Las Vegas and moved him and the majority of his camp up to Vegas. So he not only hasn't been focusing on this fight nearly as much as Figueiredo has, but he has actually uprooted and changed his entire camp, not only with the people that are in his camp, but the physical location he has completely uprooted and moved again. So he has got everything that he had accustomed to that got him into the condition that put him in a 5-round fight with Davison Figueiredo that got so close it was a draw, and threw away 2/3 of the thing that got him to that point. He let his focus go. He let his training go. He let his familiarity with home go. And he changed up all the things that you generally don't want to change before a title fight. Add on top of that, the fact that Davison Figueiredo is doing everything he can to fuck with Brandon Moreno, to show him that this is as much a mental war as it is a physical war. I get that Moreno wants to be the ever cool guy, always handling everything calm, keeping his head. At the same time, I don't see how someone as intelligent as Brandon Moreno cannot be shitting his fucking pants right now, knowing how less prepared he is than Figueiredo is, and knowing that all the circumstances that led up to them almost not fighting the first time, and Davison was still able to wage the 5-round war and bring it to a fucking draw. That's a hard pill to swallow. I think the biggest part of this, though, is that as much as I like Brandon Moreno, and I do, I like the Assassin Baby. He's smart, he's funny, he's quick, he's got a good IQ about him. But in my opinion, he had no place in that octagon with Figgy to begin with. The singular, one and only reason he got the first fight was because Brandon Royval threw his shoulder out in his fight against Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno didn't hurt him. Royval didn't quit. They called it because he hurt his shoulder, which made Moreno the quote-unquote number one contender and got him that fight. In my opinion, if Brandon Moreno took those 3 weeks seriously and put everything into it like he said he did, and was only able to take a completely distracted and literally ill Figueiredo to a draw, full camp, pissed off Figueiredo against half-focused, changed up what got him to the dance Moreno, it's not going to be a good night for Brandon. I don't think we see a third round here. I think Moreno wants to come out and he wants to show that he can do it again, but I think Davison wasn't bullshitting. I think we really saw a diminished capacity version of the God of War. And I think on a full camp, I think coming in healthy, coming in ready to go, I think Brandon Moreno is going to get a lot more to deal with than he anticipated. And I think it's going to look very similar to the first time we saw Davison Figueiredo versus Benavidez. I don't think it's as quick as the second round or the second fight, but I don't think we see a third round here. I think Moreno comes out, tries to get his game plan on, realizes way too late how much more Figueiredo has now that he is actually ready. And I think we end it either the end of the second or the beginning of the third. I think Moreno ends the night staring at the stars, very, very confused. Hashtag and still.
Oh, she's going to be a toss-up, I'm telling you. I don't think it's going to be that easy for Figueiredo. I like where your head's at, though. Don't get me wrong. I like where your head's at. I just think people are really, really underestimating Moreno here. Look, I get it. The first fight, I agree with. He shouldn't have had with Figueiredo, but after he went to a draw, that immediately tells you he is number one contender fucking material. He definitely earned that right, and there's no reason he shouldn't be having the second fucking fight.
Right. No, it's gonna be real interesting to see how that one shakes loose for damn sure. The fun part is that regardless of how that one shakes loose, we got another one coming up right behind it to finish the night out on a second rematch and a second belt being given away. The main event, the namesake for the card, the reason for the season, as it were, our headliner, Israel, the Last Stylebender, Adesanya, versus Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vittori. Who wants this one?
All right, I want this one right away for this reason. You know that odds maker shit I was talking about earlier? This is the exact fight where the odds makers have shit all fucked up. Completely. This should right here be the biggest difference in odds of the entire fight. Not fucking Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. This should have a lopsided favorite going to Adesanya. He says, well, look what happened in their first fight. Their first fight was 3 fucking years ago. And Adesanya has changed leaps and bounds and just progressively gotten better. And that's even taking into account that he just lost to fucking a light heavyweight in Polish Power. Look, I told everybody he wasn't going to win that fight, and I fucking knew that one from the get-go. Credit where credit is due. Trying to be fucking great. I love that. But now he's back down in his world. And it's his fucking world. No, credit where credit is due here. Marvin Vittori has wrestle fucked and fucking knocked a couple people out on his way to talking himself into this, because that running of his mouth is definitely what got him here. And you know what? More power to you. If that can get you where you want to be in life, cool. I don't know that this is really where you want to be at. He keeps saying this is where he wants to be, but to be quite honest, his game has not improved as much over the last 3 years as fucking Israel Adesanya. Now, if you want to go tit for tat and we start looking at fucking quality of opponents, Israel's is a lot better. I hate to say it, but they're fuck. Even as he said it during the fucking press conference, the most notable win that fucking Vittori has right now is Jack Hermanson. Most notable on his fucking list. And don't get me wrong, he did a fucking great job fucking ending him. But at the same time, that one end, he didn't have to fight Kelvin Gastelum when Kelvin Gastelum was in his prime, as Israel did. He didn't fight a juiced to the fucking gills Brazilian like Izzy did, and who he subsequently stomped. Look, strength of schedule here means a lot. I'm not going to MMA math this, but the strength of schedule on this tells you how far ahead Israel Adesanya is of Marvin Vittori. Yes, Marvin could drag this out a little bit, but I think Israel's got something to prove. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder, being as it was a split decision victory when they fought 3 years ago. And apparently that's what Marvin Vittori likes to hold on to. Dude, you fucking lost. Split decision or not. Yeah, one judge gave it to you. But you can't hang on to that. Take your L like a fucking man, move on, and fucking earn your way to the title shot. I mean, technically you did with your mouth and a couple of, I'll say a couple of nice finishes, but you're not on the same level. There's levels to this game, and you are not it. We're talking fucking God. All right, let's put this into something everybody should understand. Mario, all right? Top of the castle, you've got fucking Bowser. Marvin Vittori, I'm going to give you credit here. You're on level 2-2. That's world 2, level 2. Bowser, world 8. Last fucking level. We're huge levels difference in this game right now. Vittori is not there yet. This is an easy Adesanya victory. I think he finishes him inside of 2 rounds. I don't think this goes past the halfway point of round number 2. I think he's going to do the exact same thing as he's done before when somebody pisses him off. And look, if you don't know, when he fought Costa, KO'd him inside of fucking 2. I think we're going to see the same fucking thing happen here with a wrestling happy fucking Marvin Vittori. Look, Marvin, good on you. You definitely have a place in this sport, but you don't have a place being the first Italian champion. Just not going to happen. To be quite honest, the odds makers have it wrong. I think it's minus 1,200 favorite to fucking Israel and probably a plus 600 to Marvin. But, you know. What do I know? I'm not an odds maker. I'm just an avid fan of the sport.
So that's what TJ said. I'm not even gonna look at strength of schedule. I'm going off of one thing. You said something since the previous fight. Israel Adesanya has wrecked shop in the weight class. Every fucking fight he's gone to fucking war. Marvin Vittori, he's gone to war. All of his wins since then have all been have all of them have all been decision victories. Very sloppy victories at that. He doesn't have a fucking gas tank. For a big man, that's not very uncommon. He's as in the meter dictionary. He's one of those ice cream cone shaped motherfuckers, and they don't have gas tanks. They have gas tanks worth shit. He's a headhunter. He constantly swinging for the fences, putting everything in one shot, trying to just get a knockout. Going to the ground, you can see his takedown setups from a mile away. His takedown setups, whenever he gets them, are very fucking sloppy and they're not at all impressive. Him as a fighter is trash. Every aspect. I could beat the fuck out of the man. He's like 3 weight classes ahead of me. And he's a professional. Because he's that transparent. He's very transparent. You can see what he's doing 5 steps before before the man does it. I understand you're the Italian dream, but you need to go somewhere else because you are not a fucking champion. I understand you got to the fucking ball game, but dude, you're not there. You're not there yet. You're too sloppy. You can see, you can read you like a book. You can see what you're doing way before you fucking do something. With how quick, with how smooth and fucking evasive Izzy is, the second you try to swing that fucking haymaker, Izzy's fucking 9 feet away from you. It just doesn't end well. This is going to be one of those and still because Vittori's getting fucked up.
So I get that the Italian orc really wants to take the hobbits to Isengard. I get it. I do. He's still 100% convinced that he won the first fight. If you guys have watched any of the Embedded series this week that has come out, Israel and Eugene Behrman literally sat down in a fucking theater and rewatched that fight start to finish, giving Marvin credit where he deserved credit in the fight. Best case scenario, completely objectively looking at that fight, Marvin might, and I use the word might very, very cautiously, might have been able to considered to have maybe won one round, maybe, possibly. That's being very generous. The first time they fought, Izzy beat him. How it got so close is because we have incompetent judges, not because the fight was actually that close. The problem is, since that moment, quite literally, Israel Adesanya's image has been burned into the back of Marvin Vittori's eyeballs. When he closes his eyes at night, he sees Israel Adesanya. When he opens his eyes first thing in the morning, he sees Israel Adesanya. All day, every goddamn day, for the last 3.5 years, Izzy has lived right here for Marvin Vittori. In those 3.5 years, to their credit, both men have gone undefeated. The big difference is that the people that Israel has defeated in the last 3.5 years have been the top of the top and verified that he is as good as he says he is. Marvin, on the other hand, is, to be quite honest about it, Marvin Vittori is only in this fight because Darren Till broke his collarbone. They were and should have maintained, in my opinion, building the fight between Darren Till and Israel Adesanya if they wanted it to be taken seriously as a legitimate top of the middleweight fight, in my opinion. Vittori should not be in the conversation for top 5, let alone the fucking belt. Had Darren trained a little smarter, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But here we are, and we've got to talk about this Italian fuckstick. I get it. He is in his own head that he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. The problem is the ability does not match the mentality. You are supposed to think you are the greatest fighter on earth if you are a professional in the UFC and you are going for that belt. The difference is to get that belt, those things have to be true. And in Marvin's case, it's very much not true. I would say Marvin would legitimately be a very well suited top 10 gatekeeper for the middleweight division. Top 5? No. Top 3? In a title fight? What kind of fuckery are we dealing with? There is no world that Israel Adesanya loses this fight of his own volition. The one and only chance Marvin Vettori has to win this fight is the one that we say on the greatest of odds. He has a puncher's chance. And by that, what I mean is the only situation that Marvin Vettori can win this fight is if during an exchange, Adesanya either gets sloppy or gets lazy and doesn't have his guard up enough, and Vettori can throw one of those fucking windmill haymaker fucking hooks that he throws from 9 miles away with no fucking direction, and it somehow magically fucking lands. Even then, it's a thin fucking chance because we've seen Israel Adesanya get rocked. We've seen Adesanya get knocked down. We've seen dudes knock him down and jump on top of him. Better dudes than Marvin Vettori. And none of them could get it done. Not even fucking close. So I'll give him credit. He talked his way into a fucking title fight, and he's showing up with all the fucking steam he could muster cranked into his asshole, ready to try and do something. I don't think it makes a bit of difference at the end of the day, though, because like has been said before and will be said again, there are levels to this game. And plain and simple, Marvin is not on Izzy's level. He wasn't 3.5 years ago, and he's not now. We're going to get a similar result, but not quite the same because this is 5 rounds. But we're going to get a similar result in Izzy getting his hand raised. But this time, I think he actually puts Marvin the fuck out because Marvin's game, like TJ mentioned, has not changed since the first time they fought. Like RJ said, you can watch Adesanya's fight, and every single time he gets in that octagon, we see a little bit better version than the one we saw before. That's what you have to do if you want to get to be a champion. That's what you have to keep doing if you want to stay a champion. And Marvin hasn't even started down that road because he's still doing the same shit now he was back then. Israel Adesanya into and still. That being said, the only way to know for certain if we've actually called these correct or not is to tune in tomorrow night and subsequently Saturday night for the UFC. One quick update I will give before we get on out of here, though. They just literally 2 seconds ago ended the PFL 4 event for the evening. Brandon Loughnane beat Tyler Diamond to open the fight. Bubba Jenkins beat Bobby Moffitt after that to keep it going. Clay Collier did beat Jilton Luderbach after that. And to the surprise of pretty much everyone listening to this, I'm fairly certain, Clarissa Shields won against Brittany Elkins in round 3 at 1:44, but to the surprise of no one, won by strikes. So much like we thought, Brittany Elkins decided that she wanted to stand and bang with a fucking Olympic boxer rather than putting her on her ass, and surprise, surprise, got pieced the fuck up for it. So there is that. But that is all the MMA action we have got for you wonderful folks this evening. So before we get out of here, I do want to thank these fine folks and give them just a chance here to let you know if at this point in the game, someone wants to learn the best routine to get themselves in purple strap challenging shape, how can they get a hold of you after the show for a little advice, RJ?
You can always hit me up over there, RJ MMA Official on Instagram. Come talk some shit. You could always reach me because I always look at it at the I'm No Joe Discord, which is linked in the description. Has also been right down here at the very bottom of this stream the entire time it's been broadcast here on YouTube. You can come hit me up over there as well. You know, doing a little 2-piece for meter here. But yeah, thank you for having me on. Love being on here, man. Kick it over to TJ.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Always appreciated. And with that being said, we will throw that over to the man who is the most reliable source for fried cheese curd deliciousness and Kenosha direction dictation, Mr. Golf T Vapes himself.
Well, unlike my other colleague over here, who is apparently way more into social media than I am myself, yeah, follow all those Discord links. Those guys will answer all your questions. I don't do fucking social media, so by all means, hit them up over there. They can answer in my place, or they'll send me a fucking message, and then I will get back to you. But yeah, see me Wednesday nights here, 9:30 Central Times. It's always great being here on Thursdays, especially when we have fucking an excellent weekend like this coming up. So lots to look forward to. Enjoy the show, everybody who has who does get a chance to watch these fights on Saturday and Friday night. Got a lot to look forward to and a lot to talk about next week on Follow Up. It's going to be great.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Always appreciated. That being said, if you do appreciate what we do around here on the I'm No Joe podcast, like RJ said, you can catch us over on the brand new I'm No Joe Discord, where some of us are available for questions. We also post some of the news that doesn't get reported on the show here. Also, little interesting facts and tidbits, and the fan Q&A question section, so you can leave your questions and we will take care of them here on the show. You can also catch us on pretty much all social media platforms. All the links are down below: Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. If, however, you are catching this live Thursday nights, first and foremost, I apologize. But secondly, you can also catch us the week after the show in the distraction-free version, all audio I'm No Joe, on anchor.fm/I'm No Joe to pick up on your podcast consumption platform of choice. If, on the other hand, you are hearing us, you're welcome. But if you are so inclined, you can catch us live every Thursday night here on I'm No Joe's YouTube channel, 9:30 p.m. Central Time-ish. We do this in video format as well. But that being said, if you appreciate all of that shit talking and shenanigan, patreon.com/I'm No Joe helps support what we do around here, gives you access to the behind the scenes shit, the unaired, the unairable things, and it gets your name at the end of the video as a big old fucking thank you, because we appreciate that. But that being said, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss an episode. Thumbs up if you like what we do around here. If, on the other hand, we're just a couple of semi-bearded fellows and a young kid talking fighty stuff, and we don't know what we're really talking about, give us that thumbs down, because we earned it and we won't dispute it. But that's all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, folks, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, unless you thought that Clarissa Shields was going to be a wrestler in 3 weeks.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that